What's up, War Report family? We are here. It is Iron Bowl day, but we got some breaking news. Pete Thamel is reporting that Auburn is deep into talks with Hugh Freeze. Don't know if this is much ado about nothing, but we're going to talk about it. I got my boy C Dub here with me. Hugh Freeze is negotiating with Auburn. It seems as if he's been negotiating for the last few weeks to be Auburn's next head coach. Instant reaction, Caesar. How do we feel about the possibility of Auburn hiring Hugh Freeze?
Well, I will say this. I would have been okay with the Lane Kiffin hire, but I am a bit relieved in some aspects.
Okay.
And it's for reasons I mentioned weeks ago. It's no recency bias, or I'm not sour grapes. Watching Lane in the turkey, and then what was the turkey? Was the egg bowl? Something on Thanksgiving they play. It's frustrating watching Lane Kiffin coach a game. He's an amazing play caller, but some of his in-game decisions, as well as the fact that his defense has decided they're just not going to let teams run the ball on them. That's frustrating to watch with Lane.
Right.
The way he manages a game is highly questionable. As it pertains to Hugh Freeze, Ike and I talked about it. As far as a coach goes, I don't have a problem with the whole Hugh Freeze hire. I really don't. I'd be interested to see how he would do at this level. Should he be hired? Mike, something you mentioned before we went on, the SEC has changed a lot. It's kind of a who's who of coaches who are in this conference now. So he's won wherever he's been. I think the issues that you have towards Hugh Freeze are valid.
Right.
I think that's one thing that I will acknowledge. Even though I like Hugh Freeze, the concerns are incredibly valid.
Right.
Now, I think we're taking it a big step. I think we're taking it a bit too far when we think that Auburn has gone down the toilet bowl by hiring this guy. I'm like, I get it, but come on, y'all. I really think that Hugh Freeze will be under a very close eye and watch with this administration. And I think this dude can win. I really do. I think he can do well in this conference. Again, the issues and questions about him are incredibly valid, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. I just think that I just think this is a pretty good hire as far as on the field is concerned.
Yeah, listen, I've been asked over and over again, who do you think should be the head coach? I've repeatedly dodged this question. I had our guy John Cohen has 58 points, Caesar, for hiring the next football coach.
Did he really have 58 points?
58, that's what he said.
Okay.
I've got 3. Be good with quarterbacks. Be good with quarterbacks.
Check.
Recruit like your life is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And don't embarrass us. Don't embarrass us as head coach. I mean, so I think quarterback development has to be at the top of the list, which is why Hugh Freeze is not a bad hire from that standpoint. Now, there are some off the field stuff that's popped up. Now, we're not going to get too far into that right here. Depending on where you stand, there are a lot of people who feel like this hire goes beyond just football, X's and O's, and that, they want, I guess from an optic standpoint, a good leader of young men. So there's some question about whether he can be that. But, Auburn, I'm a little surprised by this. Now, he wasn't high. Like, I will tell you, even though I haven't really, given an opinion on who I thought the next head coach should be, Hugh Freeze wasn't high on my list. Now, I know he's had success in the SEC, but I don't think this is the same SEC that he had success in however many years ago. Brian Kelly is in division now. Mike Leach is in division now. Sam Pittman is in division now. Jimbo Fisher, not doing too hot this year, but in division now. At the very least, they had a number 1 recruiting class last year, so they've got tons of talent. Maybe having some systemic issues there in College Station. I think this is a harder SEC West, right? LSU won the West. To my point, Bama is still here. Georgia is on the other side of the conference, is a monster.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much those 2 back-to-back wins against Saban, again, 7 years ago, mean to me in terms of this hire. But I think that his record is there in terms of quarterback development. We saw what he did with Malik Willis this year at Liberty. So I'm iffy, like I said. We're a fan channel, so as always, if they hire him, we'll find a way to deal with it and root for him. But you guys are coming in here. I see you guys. Want to thank you for joining us. It's game day, so this is a War Report special. C-Dub and I going live. We have our regular pregame in 25 minutes, so we'll be jumping over to another stream. But we did want to get you guys' thoughts on Hugh Freeze, give our thoughts. Ike is at the game. B is going to join us for the pregame. Jerome Marshall says Gus Malzahn 2.0. I've seen this sentiment a lot.
Somebody got to explain this one to me because I don't see it. I really don't. I get it. He's followed Gus. He followed Gus at Arkansas State. He was a high school coach like Gus. But to me, that's where the similarities stop.
Okay.
Because, again, he has a track record with QBs that Gus does not have, right?
Okay.
So, I think you can at least expect improved quarterback play under Freeze where it was tanking under Gus.
Right. Yeah, he literally took Gus's guy and put him in the draft.
Yeah. Right. A guy who Gus never had any intentions of really doing anything with.
All right. Yeah, literally took Gus's guy and put him in the third round of the draft.
So, again, someone has to give me a strong argument as to why that's a thing. I get it. You don't like him, but to compare him to Gus or saying he's the second coming, I don't know about that one. I really don't.
Yeah. We got some more comments here. Good time. Joey says Hugh Freeze has the potential to be our equivalent of Bruce Pearl, college football hire, someone that will be an AU man for life. Second chances matter. Hey, listen, I'm all about second chances. I'm all about redemption as well, too. It just depends on where you stand on this, right? This is a very subjective topic when it comes to, now I don't think Bruce Pearl and Hugh Freeze are the same in terms of what they did that got them in trouble. So, calling escort services is not the same as having
a kid over for a barbecue.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's not the same. However, in terms of, like logistically speaking, Joey is right here in terms of you get a chance to get a decent football coach at a discount, I might add, because whatever they were talking about paying Lane, they're not paying Hugh Freeze that. I promise you. They're not paying him anywhere close to that.
Right.
As a matter of fact, if he gets over 6.5, I'll be upset. I'll be upset. If they pay him over 6.5, I'll be upset. As a matter of fact, I think he should be making around what Brian Harsin was making. Personally, until he's done something at Auburn. That's just me. I don't think you need to overpay here, but it feels a little.
No, I don't think he'll make a lot. I don't think he'll make as much as what we were talking about for Lane, because again, you're trying to get Lane to abandon a 8 or 9 million a year contract that Ole Miss had gave him.
Right.
You don't have that type of that situation isn't present with Freeze. So there's no need to overspend here.
Listen, Auburn looked at what what Lane wanted and said, the way my bank account is set up, all my money is in my savings, and I transfer it to my checking. Let me tell you something. I think this prevents, though. I think not hiring Lane keeps Auburn out of a situation where there's even more pressure on the coach because you seemingly overpaid.
Yeah.
Right. When you dump $10 million on a guy, he better come in and produce quick. So, the type of money that LSU paid Brian Kelly, he produced the SEC West title in year one. I think that's where the expectation would be, would it not?
Yeah. Listen, for what we were willing to pay Lane Kiffin, the going for it on fourth down and leaving points on the board, Ole Miss should have won that game if they just kicked a few field goals instead of going for it.
Right.
We wouldn't have a lot of patience for a lot of the stuff Lane does in the middle of a game, is what I'm saying, for what we would be paying Lane Kiffin.
That's right.
So again, I think the expectations may be low. It depends. But again, I think a lot of people, there's not a lot of room for error for Freeze, given how a lot of fans feel about him.
For sure.
At the same time. So
Thomas Sanders says, I won't be following or supporting AU football during the Hugh Freeze tenure. Hope things turn a different direction. Again, this is one of those things where this is a very subjective topic. on how you view his past and most recent, in some people's eyes, transgressions as it pertains to things that have happened not only before Liberty but at Liberty. So, I'm not opining on anybody's, stance here, but this is going to be interesting. The other thing I'll add to this too, Thomas, is it was being reported that Cohen and Freeze had a history. Yeah. And a lot of people felt like Cohen would never make this hire because of that history. So it seems like, if this is correct, it seems like he's willing to let bygones be bygones and do what he thinks is best for the university. I'll say this as well about Freeze. If you ask me, he's going to be a guy that can be told what to do. Right? If we were looking for a coach to get full autonomy, I don't think Hugh Freeze is it, personally. Not in the situation he's coming, and not unless he wins and wins a lot and wins fast. Personally,
yeah.
Anthony Grant says, "I like this hire." Zach says Dion is a home run, but I guess Cohen is already in need of new glasses. Like, listen, the masses are turning on John Cohen here as this news is broken. Cody Smith, thank you for the super chat. Hey, Caesar, 3-0, going for 4-0. Shaved head Bama is dead.
Let's get this dub with the ball head, Cody.
Yeah, or damn Eagle. Christian Crawford, again, this is a growing sentiment. Boycott John Cohen. Nature over everything. Freeze is a garbage hire. Garbage, if you're French. Hire. They don't like it. Could be interesting to see. Our guy Noah says Freeze is a good hire. Get out y'all's feelings. You heard it straight from the man's mouth. Stop being sensitive. Hire Hugh Freeze. Brian Hancher, this guy isn't officially hired, and y'all are hating. Dang. I think people are just speaking up, Brian, about how they feel about it. See, this is the issue with media reporting. We don't even know how accurate this is because the media had Lane Kiffin all but hired.
Yeah, it was a formality at this point.
A week ago. Right, yeah. So, we'll wait and see what happens. Honestly, there are probably like maybe 3 people who know what's going on with this coaching search. It was reported that there were some other names, big-time BCS playoff era names that had reached out about the coaching vacancy. So we'll see how that goes. Want to thank everybody for joining us. Listen, if you're in here on a Saturday, drop us a super chat so we see your comments. We'll be going live for game day here in 18 minutes. We're going to be jumping over to the other stream, so join us over there for our normal pregame with prizepicks.com. Caesar, this is, when you look at what he did with Malik Willis, and the non-development that's happened with high school quarterbacks coming into Auburn, what do you think? If they make this hire, what is the number? What was the thing that did it for the Auburn administration that said this is the direction that we need to go? Or is Hugh Freeze just the best of the pool available, and so they're going with that?
I think it could be a little bit of both. Again, I think it's always reported that Freeze was like one of the top names, right? Mm-hmm. And so what a lot of people were hoping for was that Kiffin would accept should Auburn offer him, an opportunity to coach at Auburn. But I think once that ship sailed, Hugh is who you have left. Now there's other names, but again, you have coaches who will reach out. But let's say for Dabo still has a lot to play for, right? And so if he wins next week, assuming if he wins next week and gets into the college football playoff, he wins his conference. It's going to be hard to get Dabo to pull him from Clemson because he's still playing for a lot, right? And so for this hire as well, something that you've mentioned, time is of the essence with this hire,
right?
So even though you have coaches who are reaching out and are interested, some of these coaches, if they're having good seasons, you won't be able to get them into the fold until much later. And so with a guy like Hugh Freeze, he's a good coach. He's done well on the field in the past, but he's also very available. Right. And so you don't have to play the waiting game with him that you would with other coaches who may be interested. And so I think timing here is a big part of it, Mike, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think unless you're one of the coaches that's potentially making the playoff, like I don't really think it matters because or if you're not in a conference championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Because I expect whoever they hire, if their team is bowl eligible, to not coach that bowl game.
Sure.
I think it's a no-brainer. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do there. But point taken about, again, availability, because you can't let this go too far past today.
Right.
Right. If not tomorrow morning, a few days from now, with early signing period, if you are trying to galvanize this recruiting class, people need to know who the coach is going to be. Auburn is still bringing in commits right now, even with that uncertainty. So It makes me wonder if somebody knows something and, there's some inside information here that the rest of us are not privy to. Lawrence Robinson says Freeze would be on probation.
See what you did there, Lawrence.
Yeah. SS Austin just joined. I like Freeze. You can debate he's a better coach than Lane. How do y'all feel? I think in terms of in-game decisions, that's absolutely true. Right? There is a argument to be made that Freeze is a much better in-game manager than Lane Kiffin.
I strongly believe that. I think Lane is a better offensive mind.
Sure.
But in-game decisions, I'm going Freeze.
Yeah, like, should we go for it on fourth down? Lane Kiffin is looking at his flow chart.
Right. Or should we have 3 down linemen against a heavy running team?
Right.
Or 4. You know what I mean? I think you like Freeze in that situation.
Yeah, appreciate the super chat, Austin. Christian Crawford, Hugh Freeze, with all his experience, has proven to be average in the SEC outside of his one glory year leading Ole Miss to the top 5. If we wanted another Gus, we would have kept the one we had. I don't know that I necessarily disagree with this take, Christian. I just don't think this is the same SEC that he even had that one glory year in. So I'm iffy. What I am clear on is he does know what he's doing with quarterbacks. He does. So the offense should be improved under Hugh Freeze. But the rest of the management of the program, that's all up for debate. So we'll have to see there how he does with that. I see you guys jumping in here. Cody Smith says, what would be funny if Dabo was announced Sunday morning. I'm all for Freeze. People need to chill and relax. It's going to be okay. So Cody says, just relax. Just relax.
They probably relax a day or two later, Cody. Right now, it's full out panic.
Yeah. It's not time. Have you seen Auburn Twitter? It's not time to relax. It's time to panic. Bankroll says the guy can develop QBs and always had great offenses. Something we need. Again, that those two of my check boxes. Sure, right. If we're just talking X's and O's in football and development, I don't think it's a bad hire, but we'll see if it will last in today's SEC. JB says there's no definite proof Kiffin is better than Freeze. Kiffin is a good coach, but not worth 10 years, 10 plus mil. Listen, I was on this train.
Yeah.
The only thing I liked about the number was high enough that it was the type of money you pay somebody when you just turn the program over to them and let them do their thing. That's it. That's all I liked about it. But the pressure that it puts on that guy to win and win immediately, can you imagine the jokes? If Auburn finished 6-6 with a $10+ million coach, look what's happening in A&M right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
I thought that would be interesting. Steve Bradley says Freeze is the best thing to happen for Robbie Ashford and Holden Garner. Now, let me tell you something. I will tell you from being in the know and having had conversation with some players, this is a fairly popular hire amongst some players on offense.
I bet.
Right.
I bet.
Some players have expressed to me that, should Auburn make a change, Hugh Freeze would be their preference. So we'll see how that goes.
And I'm going to tell you this before you move on, Mike. What I like about this is that it doesn't matter what QB. We've seen him do things with Malik Willis. We've seen him do things with a Bo Wallace. So Holden Garner has just as much of a chance as a Robbie Ashford. Right. And that's why I like Hugh Freeze. With Lane, Holden Garner is as good as gone, is my opinion. Because we've seen what type of QBs he likes in his offense.
Correct.
Just my opinion.
Correct. Joe Kyle, our guy Joe Kyle, appreciate you, Joe. It is what it is. Let's make it work. War Eagles.
I like these attitudes right here.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, no matter who they hire, you're going to have to find a way to get behind it. So I don't want people to reverse Brian Harsin, Hugh Freeze, right? Because when he got hired, there were a whole bunch of people who just stayed negative the whole time. and just never gave the dude a chance. And so now Auburn has made the change in less than a year and a half. And I think that I will hold the same sentiment for Hugh Freeze. Once he's the coach, you just got to find a way to get behind him, or it's going to be a really, really, really long season for those people.
Right.
Mike Hendrick, Freeze's actions show his character. He doesn't deserve a chance. Again, this is going to be a really popular sentiment amongst some folks. Auburn memes would say the woke Auburn based
Twitter.
Yeah, woke Auburn Twitter is definitely projecting that sentiment.
For sure.
Anthony Grant says our fan base would be ready to have Lane Kiffin's head on a platter if he lost the Iron Bowl with a multitude of failed fourth down calls. At $10 million a year, yeah, I agree. Brian Harsin took them to 4 OTs with a backup QB.
Listen, as funny as it was to watch Ole Miss flip-flop between wanting Lane to wanting him gone to glad he's back to all of that, you have to keep in mind the tweeting and all the things that Lane. It's great when you're winning. When you start losing games, no one finds his actions funny anymore, right? And so again, with when you throw 10 million in there, very little room for error on the part of a Lane Kiffin. But with Hugh Freeze, he's going to have to dig himself out of a hole from a reputation standpoint.
He's got some work to do.
Auburn. Yeah, he's got to dig himself out of a hole. And I'm not saying he's a saint. We should treat him as though he's a saint. He knows his transgressions. He knows what he's up against. But I think we were talking about a very highly motivated person who's willing to prove himself at this level again, or for the first time in some people's opinion. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man, he need to be down at the local women's Bible study.
Not that one. Start off with the men. Let the men work on him and get him up the par.
He's gonna have to do something because I'm telling you, image is everything, and he's got a little bit of work to do there. It does matter. To say it doesn't matter, I think, would be naive. Troy Swain said, if Sokolov doesn't break the story, he would be here now. Speaking of Lane Kiffin.
Very interesting. That's a very interesting take there.
Yeah, I think that it put Kiffin in a position, right, with his players and trying to finish out the season and keep everybody motivated, because you still have to be a professional until the end. So it was tough for him, and ultimately he ended up staying. What's being reported is Ole Miss is offering somewhere in the area of $9 million a year. So he's doing okay. Frankie says paying Freeze less should allow us to bring in better quality coordinators, especially on the defensive side. I said this at the top of the broadcast. There's no reason to overpay here. You don't have to overpay for Hugh Freeze. So at a minimum, Auburn is going to save about $3 to $4 million a year on a Hugh Freeze hire.
For sure. But Hugh Freeze has always have had good defenses for the most part. Again, the whole concept of Landshark,
Yeah,
defense.
I was gonna say he was a Landshark defense.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah. So he's had good defenses. So
Daryl says true, but we gave Bruce a chance. We did give Bruce a chance. I agree, Daryl, but I don't think that these two situations are the same based on past transgressions. Janora says Freeze won't last 2 years. This is one man's opinion.
Well, the last coach didn't last 2 years. So we'll see.
Janora says Freeze is going to make it just a little bit longer than Brian Harsin. Our guy Notorious says, I'm loving the Hugh Freeze hire. I think he was the better bang for your buck options. Also, don't like Lane's childish social media presence. Again, this is hate it, love it or hate it.
Yeah.
Like there's some people who love Lane on social media, and there are other people who just kind of detest how he behaves in public and think the trolling goes a little far. I do agree. It is bang for your buck as long as he behaves. Right. So hopefully,
for sure.
The hope is that whatever past transgressions, he's learned from that and he's moved on, and Auburn won't have to worry about any breaking headlines on their head coach that don't involve the game. Uzi says what Freeze did was bad, but the university has done bad things too. I just got my popcorn watching the battles. Our guy, Fresh Boy, hire Kevin Steele or Travis Williams. I'm totally against the Steele thing, but Illinois DC pretty good too. Travis Williams, bring him home, baby. Bring him home. Would he leave Gus? Would he leave the guy who gave him a chance to be defensive coordinator? I would like to see him come home to the SEC. He's done a great job down there at UCF. Kiffin's family didn't want to leave Ole Miss. Now, if you watch this, you remember I gave an opinion on this, and I try to tell people there are more things that go into these decisions on whether to take a job or not. And this was one of the things that I saw. Listen, his family has a life there. They're ingrained in the community. I'm sure they weighed in on what they would prefer at him to do. And at some point, if Ole Miss is willing to give him $9 million a year, is an extra $1 million a year at this point enough to uproot your family and take over, a 500 football team when you've already built something in Oxford? So I think there's some validity to that. Spicy Penguin, what's up, Mike and C? What y'all think about the insider saying we have another target we're considering before Freeze? I think this is possible. Again,
I think it's very possible.
All the media reporting had Lane Kiffin nailed in to be the next coach, and look what happened. So I think there could be a name. There was reported there were 2 names that had not been publicly announced that were in the running for head coach.
I also like the fact that you didn't have a search firm helping to lead this, so that stuff would leak, which means it's very possible while people have been paying attention to Kiffin, Cohen has been able to make contact with other coaches and it not leak to the media. So it's very possible that that's a factor here.
Facts. I got Notorious back with the super chat. Appreciate the super chat. Freeze head coach, Caddy OC, T Will DC. Let's see here. Actually, I don't know. I love Caddy. I do. I actually would like to see Ike Hilliard get a shot at OC. If they can, working under Hugh Freeze as a former SEC receiver, NFL receiver. I think that would be interesting. Listen, guys, we're getting pretty close to having to jump on to our pregame show for the Iron Bowl. Jump over to the other stream, catch us over there. This is a War Report.
Let's grab this one real quick. Cody Smith has this one, says bring in T-Rob.
I would love that. I would love that as well too. He has been prolific with developing DBs.
For sure.
Good. He followed Will Muschamp around for a lot of his career after he got into coaching. If you don't remember T-Rob, he graduated from Auburn in 2002. And was a great defensive back for us. Safety. He was a safety for us. But I would like to see him come home too for sure. Cody Smith. Did anyone hear that Sean Payton wants to come back and coach? Just saying.
Probably NFL.
Yeah, that would be a splash higher for sure. That would be a splash higher.
For sure. Yeah, that would be.
All right, guys, we're running out of time. We got to jump over to the pregame. So we're going to end this here. Thanks for joining us. Almost 400 of you guys in here. Spur of the moment to talk about Hugh Freeze potentially becoming the head coach at Auburn University. The Iron Bowl is up next. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Until then, we'll see you guys in a few minutes. War Eagle.
War Eagle.